Many say para-unity is a myth. Many believe that the paranormal community is toxic, filled with egos, know-it-alls, and wannabe celebrities. Let's clear the air here and now. This thing we call para-unity is what we make it. Tonight, let's do something different. Welcome to Necromancer Live. Hello, and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. I am your host, Justin Brown, and we are presenting episode 78 tonight, and we are speaking with Dina Rae. She is a self-proclaimed conspiracy expert. She does fictional novels based on all of her conspiracy theory research. Anything from UFOs, government conspiracy, just all kinds of stuff. She's even delved into religious conspiracy and pretty much anything fringy when it comes to opening your mind up to what propaganda and what secret societies do. All kinds of neat stuff. We are going to be talking about, I think, her 8th novel. She has more literary works, but I think this is her 8th novel. But we'll go ahead and read her bio while we're waiting for people to come in real quick. Let me get to it. Alrighty. Dina Rae. Okay, Dina Rae is here with us once again to cover her new album, or her new novel, rather, Crowns and Cabals, an apocalyptic tale of New World Order. Dina is an expert in conspiracy theories and uses her research to fuel her fictional novels about corrupt governments, UFOs, and religion. In Dina's 8th book, she dives deeper into the NWOs, or the New World, rather, by fast-forwarding to the year 2043, where a journalist and his sister created a vigilante cell that seeks to undermine a secret society that started since the dawn of civilization. So that should be very, very interesting to talk about. We definitely want to promote her book. She does a lot of research, like I said, and it's very, very interesting. And from the reviews I've seen on Amazon so far, it's only been out a couple months. I'm not sure exactly when it come out. She can clarify, but the reviews are starting to look good, and she definitely has a very good literary following. So without further ado, Dina, what's going on, girl? Long time no talk. Can you hear me, Dina? Well, she might be having some connectivity issues. We'll wait to see if she comes back. Yep, she's frozen right now. But while we're waiting on Dina to come back, we can kind of give the ground rules of how the chat works. If you're new, if you're watching on Twitch or Periscope and you're not used to watching our live streams, there she is. Can you hear me now? She's slowly returning.
Thanks, Jeff. Hey, Justin. Thanks for having me again.
You're very welcome. You're going to be in and out. It seems like it's not
Can
very
you hear
stable.
me?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're.
I can hear you just fine. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
Yes, I can hear you. You're fading in and out a little bit, but that's okay. So I was just telling our guests how it works. If you have a question for Dina, just be patient. Just write down your question or thought, whatever it is, down in chat, and Missy and Jessica will get to you momentarily throughout the show. We'll ask questions and we'll allow you to interact with our guest. Please share this live stream. Please consider following the pages that you're watching or the YouTube channel if you're a first-time viewer. After about an hour, we're going to take a break, but we're going to go ahead and get into this interview. So, Dina, I understand that you have a new book that we want to talk about. Do you want to kind of set the stage for why you wanted to write another book about the New World Order? Tell me about, where you're at in your life to kind of inspire you to want to write another book about it.
Well, New World Order is probably one of my favorite conspiracy theories of all time. It's like the grandfather of most conspiracy theories. It includes aliens, it includes secret societies, it includes
elite. It includes big plans for slavery, for world slavery. It's everything going for it in terms of an exciting conspiracy theory. It goes into the banking institutions and the political wars that we fight. Everything we do has to do with New World Order. To give you an extremely recent example, I was watching the news today, and Brexit, for example, has yet to happen. If your listeners follow the news, England voted to get out of the EU 3 years ago, and that hasn't happened yet. So, again, what kind of democracy defies the will and the votes of the people? That's not a democracy. That's a totalitarianist state, which is what Great Britain or England says that they're not. So that's just one of the many examples in this country right now. We've got about gun confiscation. I think that's one of the steps to New World Order. You can't take over the entire world if citizens are armed and are willing to fight you. That makes things a lot more difficult. Another thing about New World Order, you can't have borders, because New World Order is one world. There's no such thing as sovereignty. So again, we have that in our country with the whole border, the Mexican border, that for some reason or another, a lot of people don't want to enforce any border laws. So Europe has had that problem. We have not learned from their mistakes. Now we have that problem. I think rich countries are gonna all have that problem pretty soon, because the powers that be don't want any borders. And if you want to upset an economy, well, import poverty, and it will happen every time.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept when it comes to talking about a global government and how allowing your borders to become, unprotected, where you're allowing, refugees and uncontrolled immigration in. Kind of elaborate a little bit more on how that will work in the globalist favor, and how that really breaks down our economy and maybe some other sectors of our culture. I think we might have lost her again. Hopefully we don't have this problem too bad through the show, guys. I apologize. We're experiencing some lag issues on Skype. We may have to ask her if she's on. Uh-oh. Dina, can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. You're slowly coming back.
I can hear you just fine. Yeah, maybe I'll just talk lower on the speaker. Okay, I'll try to the speaker. I want to be real clear with your audience. There are different versions of New World Order. Mm-hmm. And the version that I believe in is the version that could possibly encompass aliens. Maybe they are part of all of this. Our elites are doing their bit. That is definitely on the table per my New World Order beliefs. And of course, I'm a Christian, so a lot of my New World Order beliefs stem from biblical prophecy, in where the Antichrist takes over the world as a New World Order, and then his bidding begins. So I just want to be clear, there are different versions of it, and I want you and your listeners to know the theory that I prescribe to. Of course, we've got elites all over the world that are really running things. The idea of a democracy is just that. It's an idea. I could cite you example after example. I think recently we've all seen this whole Ivy League college thing go down. Going to an Ivy League college is not about getting a great education. It's about preserving your power for the future. So we've got pay lots and lots of money to get their kids who don't deserve to get into these schools tuition and admittance. So they've got a fix on everything. If you look at who's running our country, again, not to keep beating on the Ivy Leagues, but most of our Senate and our congressmen are from Ivy League schools. Now, why is that? If you're representing the people, why is such a tiny little fraction of people who go to Ivy Leagues about someone's pedigree, so to speak? And my book explores a lot of these questions that at least I have. I know with the gun thing right now, yesterday we had all of the Democratic candidates saying they wanted to ban guns. I think, what was that guy? He's my least favorite of all of the candidates. He's I'm from Texas. He's from Texas too. Beto O'Rourke. He wants to, well, I don't know how you buy back guns. People never bought guns from the government. So how are the government going to buy them back? I know there's a lot of terrible violence on the news right now, but again, this is quite the opportunity to take guns out of everybody's home if you want to help New World Order along.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. Now, is there anything that is competing with globalists at all?
Well, I know I'm talking a little bit about England. We just got that guy, Boris Johnson, the prime minister, new prime minister just got voted in. And again, the people of Great Britain want Brexit, and he claims do or die, he's going to get them out of the EU. So England doesn't have to deal with the EU anymore, and they could be their own sovereign country. Some would argue, I mean, the jury is definitely still out, but some would argue that's how Trump got elected. People are sick of the same old elites getting in office. We had Bush, then we had George W. Bush. We had Clinton, and then we almost had Hillary Clinton. So you might argue that could be how Trump got in. He seems like an outsider, and it appears that he doesn't have any tight relationships in Washington. I'm this is conspiracy theory. It's, pure, but a lot of people do agree on these points. I also want to point out that the world has about 7.5 billion people, and they believe that once we hit 10 billion people, which is by 2050, we will not be able to sustain ourselves, at least in our way that we live and what we eat and how we live. And how do you populate? How do you stop the population from increasing? These are all population control is part of new. So anyway, I'd like to add a lot of things that are going on right now, especially with the United Nations. And many people are very suspicious of the United Nations. They feel that they are the skeletal government that will take power when New World Order begins. They started in the 90s. They had what's called Agenda 21. I don't know if your listeners are familiar with this, but the 21 stood for the 21st century. And all of the world leaders got together in Rio de Janeiro and made a plan on how to supposedly sustain the world. Then they met up 10 years later, and then they met up another 10 years later, and then they finally met up about 5 years ago and drafted Agenda 2030 for the year 2030. Now, a lot of what they drafted has to do with the environment. And if you look closely at what was drafted in the UN, it dovetails very nice and neatly to what Ocasio-Cortez in New York City is plugging. Now, again, I am a conspiracy theorist, but some people think that all of these claims about the environment are, again, another way to spark New World Order. So maybe I'm sounding a little bit crazy here, but give me a chance. I'll give you lots more. Anybody got any questions so far?
Yes, I did see a couple. I'm going to suggest something, Dina. We're having some connectivity issues with your Skype. Would you mind if I called you on your phone? Do you mind? Okay.
Here, you want me to type you my phone number?
Yeah, type your phone number, and then once I get it, I'm going to just call your phone. And we'll just do audio. I know that's going to be a lot better listening experience. And I'll just put your book cover up on the screen. I appreciate it. All right. Let's see what we got here. I'll write this down. Oh. Just give us 1 second, folks. We're going to make this a little bit better. Sometimes we just have these issues. And we got to roll with them.
Did you guys, have you guys heard anything, or not really?
I'm sorry. What did you say?
Did you guys hear anything, or can you hear me? Or
I do hear you, but it's in and out. I have to find the chat. Let's see where see if I can find where you put the number at.
She put it in the Skype chat.
Yeah, I'm having trouble finding it.
Oh, it's just...
For some reason. It's not showing it to me. Missy, can you message me her number?
Email it to you?
No, I'm going to have Missy send it to me.
It won't open my chat.
I just sent it to you.
All right, thank you. All right, Dina, go ahead and hang up the Skype call, and I'm going to call you right back, okay? Hopefully she hears me. Oh, this is real small. She's going to make me... Okay. All right, Dina, can you hear me?
She's locked up completely on my end.
All right, I'm gonna start a new call, guys.
Okay.
Okay, just bear with us momentarily, folks. I apologize. So let me dial on this number. And we'll get this interview straightened out, because I'm sure a lot of you are interested in this. Calling. Hello. Hi, can you hear me? I can hear you. All right, Dana, let me get this situated here. Okay. Let me see if I can pull your audio into the show here real quick. So give me one moment, okay? All right. Put a new NDI source in here. There we go. All right, we're going to add our chat moderators, and we'll get this show on the road. See if I can find...
All right.
There we go. Add.
Do you want me to still be on the camera, or?
No. I'm just called you, and that's how we're going to do the show from here on out.
Okay.
Do we got you? All right. Okay. Dina, you were talking about. Let me see if I can backtrack. We were talking about how Trump got in, and he's a wild card, pretty much. Essentially, what you're saying, they weren't part of this new. Trump wasn't part of this new world order. So you were kind of insinuating to me, from what I gathered, was there was a large part of the population who was sensing that there's some kind of globalist agenda, and they wanted to pretty much vote for Trump, which is risky because you don't know what you're going to get, to counteract this agenda.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. And if we're going to see a bunch of elites paraded around as the Democratic choice, he's going to get elected again. I think the majority of the people that I talk to anyway, they don't want the establishment, the ruling class, the elites, the deep state, whatever you want to call them. They don't want them as our leaders anymore. We're done. We're on to the scam, and someone who doesn't know what they're doing might be better for America than someone who knows the system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's kind of dive into your book a little bit. Let's talk about some of the main characters and the setting of the book, and maybe some of the plot without giving away too much information, unless you want to indulge as much as you would like.
Well, my book starts about 25, 30 years from now. It's a little bit in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And my two main characters are upper middle class people who are not part of the inner circle, yet have quite a bit to lose. And the inevitable happens. We all know it's going to happen one day. In my book, it happens in, I think, 2042. We have a nuclear war. And we're blaming the Middle East because there seem to be the greatest scapegoat ever invented for the Western world. And United States gets involved, China gets involved, Russia gets involved. Before you know it, it's a nuclear holocaust. And in order to stop the death, stop the destruction of the earth, we call a global truce. And that entails a one world government. And the UN is, intact. They're going to lead the world in a reconstruction phase right afterwards. So my two main characters would be your upper middle class. So as this new world order is forming, people with nice houses have to give them up. Okay, is it sounding a little bit like socialism?
Mm-hmm.
People who had 401ks and retirement plans and checking accounts and bank accounts, the economy is missing. Now you don't have anything. So anyone who was broke, well, they're still who was on their way up the social ladder, so to speak, has lost everything. And again, my characters are not part of the elite. They're just people who worked hard and did well, and now they've got nothing. Well, they decide to fight back. They don't know who to fight, but they're going to take down one elite at a time, and they're going to make those who are now in power, they're going to make their lives as uncomfortable as they can. And that could be by destroying their life. That could be by theft. That could be by ruining their property, whatever it takes. They're vigilantes. So while they're robbing somebody's home, they find an ancient crown, hence the title Crowns and Cabals. And they don't know what it's for, but they know that it had to at one point belong to a museum. It was definitely not something that they wore in medieval times. We're talking like old dawn of civilization type of looking crown. And they don't know why the person that they robbed has it. And it goes from there. I don't want to give too much away, but again, just to tie it in with history, during our Gulf War with George W. Bush, right after 9/11, I guess you could call it the second Gulf War, we were in charge of guarding the Iraqi museum and the Iraqi central bank. And this wasn't widely reported. Why, I don't know. But I want to say in 2003, I might be 1 year off or so, but the place was completely robbed. All of the museum relics that are from Iraq, which, you know, as many call the cradle of civilization, were guarded in this central bank area. And the entire area, or the entire basement of the bank, was ripped off. So why? Who's they never found who stole all the merchandise. Some of it was returned. Some of it's still missing in action. We don't know who has all of this ancient stuff. But that just got me thinking, what was so important that needed to be stolen? And then years later, we've got ISIS, who are very into destroying museums in Iraq and Syria. Again, what is the significance of that? Are they destroying the museums, or are they stealing what's inside the museums? So there's a little bit of a mystery with these artifacts. I don't want to give it away, but I think, as a conspiracy theorist, I think there's a reason why we're always looking to go to war in the Middle East. They've got something that our elites want. We're still in Afghanistan to this day. 17, 18 years later? Why? It certainly doesn't benefit us at all if Afghanistan's stable or not. It puts our soldiers at risk, costs tons and tons of money. Trump said, Obama said he was going to get them out, and he didn't. Trump said he was going to get out our troops, and most of them are still there. So what made both of those men change their minds so quickly right after they got elected? There must be some kind of secretive something in Afghanistan, and I know maybe 5-6 years ago it was reported on Coast to Coast AM, which is a paranormal radio show like yours, that there was a Vimana in an Afghani cave, which the Indian culture called flying saucers Vimana in their ancient texts. And there was a parade of world leaders. Obama went to this cave, Angela Merkel, the Sarkozy of France, who was the prime minister at that point, Tony Blair, who was at that point the prime minister of England. Why are all these heads of state going to Afghanistan to look in some cave? Again, this was not widely reported, but many people believe, again, a whole alien factor that ties in with a lot of New World Order conspiracy seems to be rearing its ugly head in Afghanistan. And when you look at the Indian culture, they did write a lot of bizarre texts in their ancient writings about flying saucers. So what's going on? And I know Albert Einstein, who read the Indian text, I think they're called the Vedas. He said when somebody asked him how he invented or how it felt to be the first to invent the bomb, and he said, "Oh no, I was not the first. The bomb has been around for a long, long time." It says so in the ancient Indian text. So Einstein tipped his hat years ago to the Indian culture for recording a nuclear devastation that happened millenniums ago. So again, there's a lot of history that we're told that either was made up because they want us to believe a certain way, or maybe there's something nefarious going on, or a lot of guessing that went on that is presented like facts. Now, I don't know which it is, but I know that our history that we're spoon-fed is not accurate.
No, I believe that we receive a lot of misinformation and we're kept in the dark a lot of things. I'm going to kind of dissect a few things that you said that I know about and I kind of do a little bit of research on. And then after that, we're going to go to the chat, do some shout outs, maybe get some questions and go from there. You mentioned, why are we still over in the Middle East? I know our allies, if you kind of look to our allies, a lot of questions arise from that too, like Israel, for example. And if you look at certain allies like not Iraq, but the one Iran, there's certain things that you kind of scratch your head. And the reason could be oil. The reason could be drugs. It could be something far more sinister and crazy than that, which would lead us to UFOs. Now, me and my mother talk a lot about, we are getting things from alien cultures. The elite are. In exchange, they're feeding off of us and doing other things that are not so great. So that could be how the UFO stuff can tie in, and that's pretty much how the New World Order works in with the whole UFO conspiracy. But as far as the artifacts, I think that's really interesting. I know a lot of elites, they think out there, okay? They think out there, and it seems like it's very not grounded compared to how people believe and think now when it comes to religious artifacts, when it comes to script or literature, whether it's some type of biblical gospels that was omitted or edited out of the Bible that keeps getting unearthed, or maybe there's some information, written on some artifacts that they know that if it gets out, it could cause some issues. Who knows? But I think it's all very interesting. But with that being said, let's go to the chat. I'm sorry it took so long to get to you guys.
Wait.
Okay.
Justin, I just want to piggyback on one thing you said real quickly. Like you said, the elites are getting something from aliens and their alien technology. I want to just go back to yesterday, 2 days ago, whatever it was, when Iran launched a satellite, and before it even made it past the first sphere of the atmosphere, it was mysteriously shot down. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys were following that. Well, what does that mean? Who mysteriously shot it down? And do we have lasers in space that can shoot something down? And again, that would be alien technology that we might have, that we're hiding. And if they can shoot down, well, then they certainly can shoot in other directions, which I can even make a connection that maybe they're shooting down spaceships that are approaching our galaxy altogether. And Trump is very gung-ho about this space station. So I'll leave it at that. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's a good thing we got a 2-hour show tonight, because my wife just brought up weather control, which we are talking about for a couple weeks. You know, this hurricane we just dealt with, so we'll talk about weather control too. But let's go to the chat. I know you girls probably have a book of questions, or if you've done throw your hands up in the air and said I quit by now. Let's do some shout outs. Make everybody feel welcome and part of the show, and go from there.
It's still my voice. It's not Clayton's, so you're good. I have Derek Schreiner. I have Sandy Griffith. I have Bonnie Ring. I have Michael. I have Valerie. I have Becky. I have Josh. I have Leanne. I have Steve. I have Heather. I have Chad. And I have Christy. The only question that I had was, what year does the New World Order start?
I mean, no one knows, and it says in the Bible that no one knows the date or the hour or the second. But I'm going to generalize here, and with all of the signs that we're seeing, I'm going to say that New World Order is going to start in 20 to 30 years from now. That's my estimate.
Oh, that's not very far away, is it?
No, a lot of us will still be alive.
All right. Is there any other questions on Facebook that you saw?
I just had one. Has Justin or his guest ever seen a UFO?
I have not.
I have not, but I have felt, whether they're ghosts or aliens, whatever, I have felt presences around me. I've never seen a UFO. I've never seen an alien with my eyes, but I've felt an extraterrestrial or other world presence. Justin, I'm sure you have too.
Oh yeah. And I always keep an open mind. You know, you can never validate what's coming across the device or something you see on camera. You know, it's just not. We don't know what we're dealing with. You know, there's a very mysterious element and a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to the paranormal. So you kind of have to. It's a good idea, I think, to leave your mind open. You know, there is a documentary made by Chad Kalick called Sir No Face, and then it kind of strangely went into a whole couple other sequels about, you know, it being an alien grade that they that was videotaped by God, I can't think of his name right now, by an Australian paranormal researcher on Cockatoo Island. And that is a very interesting series of documentaries. But we won't go off on a tangent on that. Was that all the other questions we had on Facebook, Mezzy?
Yes, that was it.
All right, let's go. What's going on over on YouTube?
Sam Thomas, Betty, Marilyn, William Bennett, and Scrawlin Wolf is on. Sam wanted to know, how do you go about writing your books?
Well, Sam, thanks for the question. I tend to kind of get interested in something, and then that interest will just lead me hopping from internet site to internet site to internet site. And then before you know it, I'm starting to question, well, what if, and what if, and what if? And then all of a sudden a fictional scenario will come to mind, and then I'll start to write. And I like to write. I'm old fashioned in the sense that I like to write out of a spiral notebook or a journal, and use pen. And then when I type up what I wrote, it's more detailed, it's better writing, it's more comes to mind on what to put down. So I like that system, because the notebook way kind of gives me a skeletal chapter, and then when I go to type it, the story starts filling out. I guess like an artist would sketch their canvas, and then they would go to paint it with more detail.
And everything else, they're talking amongst themselves. So we're clear on YouTube.
Awesome. Everybody, thanks for joining us. It's means a lot to us, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of the show. Dina, that kind of makes me think of a question when it comes to forming and writing your book. Have you ever interviewed like a whistleblower or somebody that has some type of esoteric information or knowledge about the subjects in your books?
No, I have not. I've certainly, I have some blogs, and I have a social media presence, and I've gotten all kinds of people that have contacted me. I've gotten no whistleblowers, but I have gotten several people who claim that they're in the Freemasons, and they're real high in their degrees, and they're not part of the inner circle, like very defensive of the whole thing. I've had people who've, said that have gotten very angry with me about my work. They think that, it's a bunch of fiction, and then I remind them, well, it is a bunch of fiction. It's fiction. But I've had all kinds, and but no whistleblowers. I've had some people who wanted to guest blog with their conspiracy theories, which I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
If you got a conspiracy theory you want to write up, I'd love to post it on my blog. I'm all for a community of different conspiracy theories.
No, that's pretty cool. Jessica, go ahead with Williams.
Yes. William had a question. In your opinion, what is the end goal of this New World Order?
Well, I think the planet cannot be sustaining all the people that are on it. And although I'm not a fan of Ocasio-Cortez and all these people who don't want you to eat meat and all of that, we're not going to have enough food pretty soon. We're not, especially, and everybody's upset about GMO foods. They might cause disease. We're still not real sure on that. Well, if we can't genetically modify our food, if we can't make our food in a lab, if that's unhealthy, well, there's no way we're going to be able to feed 7.5 billion people that we have right now, let alone in 10, 20 years when we've got 10 billion people. So the elite know this, and the best way to preserve this world would be to get rid of the people in their mind that don't count. So again, people who are not productive, people who don't live in an area that has natural resources, people who are not educated, they are expendable. And the people that are of use to them, who are not going to rebel, but will take orders and become a modern day slave, for lack of better description, will be spared. And that's how the world's going to be. It'll support these elites, and they will have their minions, and everybody else is going to have to go.
I have a question. Have you ever thought about you would come across some information that you may put in your book, or maybe you're on a blog or a forum or whatever, and you might get some like attention from like some maybe it's like somebody who seeks out people who get too close to certain subject matters and kind of like pushes back a little bit. Have you ever feared that you would get some pushback from anybody associated in the New World Order?
I'm on Reddit all the time. I've gotten a lot of pushback on Reddit, a lot of pushback. If I, say one negative thing about some of these up and coming Democratic candidates, oh my gosh, I'm blasted. You can't. People are so they think in such terms of black and white that they can't even, question, somebody's motives. I know that I wasn't involved in this, but I was on another radio show, and the radio host was totally questioning the whole Vegas shooting thing. And he had, 20, 30 comments about what a hater he was, and and how could you think this was a conspiracy theory? There's some people out there who get really, really, really angry if you're saying something that they don't believe, instead of just accepting it like, well, everybody's entitled to their opinion, which is how I am.
Right. So, do you let's just be blunt here. Do you believe that there's a lot of sheep that were we're just being shepherded through this whole narrative, this propaganda, and this kind of false reality of what's going on? I mean, I just feel like when I'm out in public, it's just like a bunch of zombie sheep, like people walking around, or whether they're far to the left or far to the right. Like I try to associate with people that stay in the middle and keep an open mind. It's like, it freaks me out. It kind of gave me the feeling of when I used to go into churches, and I'm very spiritual, and I have nothing against any church or Christianity or anything, but there's like a cult-like atmosphere in a lot of churches that I've been to. And it just freaks me out, because you can just tell when someone's not open-minded, and you can tell when there's several hundred people in the same room that's not open-minded. It just, you feel this vibe.
Yep.
And it just freaks me out. The older I get, and the more stuff the more rabbit holes I go into, I just start to get a little bit more freaked out. And my mother, she's a really gifted psychic medium, whatever you want to call her, and the stuff she tells me about UFOs and aliens just freaks me out too. And we can kind of get back into that if you want a little bit, because I want to know what you think. Have you researched all the missing people, specifically the staggering number of children missing per year, nation or worldwide? It's like it's in the millions. And what do you think about that?
I've heard all kinds of theories that they become star children, and they somehow aliens somehow infuse themselves into their body, kind of like a invasion of the body snatchers. I've heard that
would explain black-eyed children almost, wouldn't it?
Yeah, black-eyed children, exactly. And I've heard they've got the best genetics, and they're great for splicing with other kinds of alien DNA to clone, to create hybrids. Missing children and aliens seem to go together, but I'd also like to throw in, with this Jeffrey Epstein character on the news all the time, that might be another place where missing children go, unfortunately, into sexual slavery, and that breaks my heart. But that's another good possibility.
I'm going to introduce another possibility that my mother suggested. She said that there's a treaty between a certain UFO or certain alien race that's here on Earth, and a lot of them are underground. She says that the treaty allows these reptilian aliens to feast, to actually eat children. Have you ever heard that before?
Yeah, David Icke, the reptilians, absolutely. They're they live in the Hollow Earth, and they're from the Draconian star. I've heard they feed on children. some of the reptilians can shapeshift, and they supposedly have ties to the English monarchy. I mean, I've heard all kinds of reptilian stories, and that's one scary breed of aliens. I know what your mom's talking about. In fact, I even wrote a book on them a couple of years ago. They're a very scary group, and some say that they use the Greys in their own galaxy. They use the Greys for slavery, like a new world order going on intergalactically.
Right, like maybe the Greys are almost like a synthetic organism that they've created to go out and do their bidding.
Mm-hmm.
That all this is crazy. Like if you sat around and actually went full in on some of this stuff, how would you keep it together? I think that is like almost like a evidence of kind of like how we're conditioned to believe that this stuff is just too fantasy like to buy in all the way. I mean, do you buy into this all the way? Are you all the way there? Or are you just teetering in the middle?
I'm open-minded, but again, seeing is believing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've never seen an alien, a reptilian, nothing. However, like we were talking about, I can feel an evil presence when you're feeling something that in the room that's not normally there, and that hair on the back of your neck goes up. That's your instincts telling you something. And sometimes you can know something without seeing it. And
mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I know what your mom is talking about, and I have felt a sixth sense at times when maybe nobody else did.
Right.
I know. On a side note, when I was pregnant with my kids, I went to the doctor, and they told me I was RH negative, and I had no idea what that meant. But long story short, I had to have a shot so that when my kids were born, they would be born with a higher chance of being healthy and to get their RH factor positive. Well, many years later, like over 10, 15 years later, a little research, the RH stands for rhesus monkey. And again, Darwin said we all come from monkeys, right? Well, if you don't have the RH factor, then you didn't come from a monkey. That blows the whole evolution theory out the door. And up to 5 to 10% of the population have RH negative blood. So what does that mean? That if we for sure didn't come from monkeys, where did we come from? I'm not saying that I'm part alien by any means, but the Bible has all kinds of interbreeding stories between angels and humans. We've got there's a whole lot more than the Homo sapien. We've got dozens of hominids that could have mated with each other.
Oh yeah.
We don't really know where we're coming from.
Right. And it's interesting. I have been researching where in Genesis where you spoke where there was Nephilim mentioned where fallen angels were mating with humans and animals. And when you look into the Book of Enoch specifically, it goes into pretty good detail about that. And there's definitely been a lot of books and a lot of theories based on whether these angels were actual extraterrestrials from another planet or maybe even another dimension. All interesting things to think about. And by the way, before I forget, William Bennett said, it gave you a compliment. He stated that this caller is a logical, critical thinking conspiracy theorists, and those types are super rare and most fun to listen to. So,
oh, thanks, William Bennett.
I didn't want to skip over that. I wanted to make sure that you knew that there were people digging your perspective on these conspiracy theories. And I think if you're going to be credible, you can't be all in on a lot of this stuff without, like you saying, this proof that, you know, most people require to believe that reptilian aliens are coming out of the hollow earth and eating our missing children. I mean, God, I hope that's not true. I really pray to Jesus that's not true at all. You know what I mean? You know, I would like to sleep at night.
Exactly. But then again, we don't really know. And we do have thousands, millions, maybe billions by now of missing children. And where are they going? We have a good idea with some, but it might be partially true. We don't know. That's my point. There's so much we don't know. To sit and discount it like it's ridiculous is not right. That's not right. You can't dismiss something that you have no knowledge about.
That's right. And with that, I think we're ready for our first break. We have reached the midway point. So everybody in the chat, we're going to take about a 7 to 8 minute break. We're going to run some, promos, some video promos, some ads, and we'll be right back. Please don't go anywhere. We got a whole nother hour to talk about all kinds of weird stuff, and I definitely have a lot more questions and hope you guys too. So we're going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Do you have that drive? That morbid curiosity to explore the darkness? Do you have what it takes to brave the night? You do? Good.
Friday, September 13th, begin your journey into the supernatural in one of Ohio's most haunted mansions. Built in 1858, the Anchorage Mansion's dark history extends well beyond the deaths of its multiple owners. For 26 years, it was used as a nursing home, where many Marietta residents spent the last years of their lives. Join us for a night of history and ghost hunting you'll never forget. Your journey awaits.
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the world wide web of weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
see you. What the fuck was that?
Something that I picked up prior on the photos that I've seen, I keep seeing a badge. It feels like some kind of tightness in the chest. So it feels like he possibly could have passed away from heart or lung issues. But I don't know if he was an officer here or some kind of badge. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it, and it's just so overwhelming. It's just, it's a lot of
Whoa. My camera just stopped. I just got a complete shutdown of my equipment.
My main story when I first started here, that's where I saw the mass, was in the basement doorway.
Showers in prisons feel weird. More happened in there than people getting clean.
Doesn't matter what floor you're on, what room you're in, you can get interaction. This is one of the most haunted locations that I've been to.
Just walk out of your cell. I'd like to see you. What the fuck was that?
A lot of chaos a few times, a lot of hectic and a lot of energies all at once. Feels like there's an older gentleman, like he's almost angry.
To the side of the house, and we both felt like something was watching us. So at the same time, we turn and we look up at the tower, and we see a man standing there. He was an older gentleman, and he had, you know, like his cheeks were kind of hanging down, and his gray hair was swept back, and he had a maroon dressing gown on.
I do believe that I have some sort of ability, or genuinely I could be in this house all day, all night without any complaints whatsoever. It's just that comfortable. A lot of people think just because it's haunted and just because it has paranormal activity that automatically you're supposed to run screaming for the hills, but in this place it just feels like home.
I heard footsteps, 5-degree increase.
It walked away. It's behind you.
And we are back. Thanks for sticking with us. Hopefully you guys got a bite to eat, a drink, or maybe even a cigarette. But we are back with Dina Rae, the author of Crowns and Cabals. And we left off with talking about aliens eating children, which is definitely terrifying to me. I am more than glad to switch gears. Oh, I already had water, Braylon. Do you have anything better than water? No? Alright. I tried. But where should we go from that, Dina? I mean, is there anything in your book that you want to touch on, do you want me to lead us down another rabbit hole?
Well, there's one rabbit hole that It's one of my favorite proof New World Order rabbit holes that I encourage you and your listeners to check out. You could check it out on YouTube. It is called the Gotthard Tunnel in Switzerland. And the reason I'm bringing this up, this was definitely an inspiration for the book. This is one of my many, one thing leads to another. Before you know it, I got a book. This went down in the summer of 2016, and it's a engineering feat that was the first time they put the longest railway inside of the Alps. And it's the longest railway. It's the deepest railway. It's through the Alps mountains, called the Gotthard Tunnel. And
I'm looking at it right now.
The reason I'm bringing this up is because it was such a big deal. It was such an engineering marvel. They had a big, big, big ceremony when it opened. And the attendees were the likes of, again, Angela Merkel, she sure gets around. She was also at that cave we talked about earlier. Angela Merkel, what's that French guy? Macron. Maybe it was Hollande at that point. I can't remember. Tony Blair, Theresa May, the whole cast of characters, the head of the EU in Brussels, all of them, they were there. And the reason I am bringing this up, because if you watch the ceremony, your jaw would drop to the floor, because it's like a parade. And let me give you a brief synopsis. I encourage you to watch the video, but the video is long, so I'll just tell you the short version. This was a parade celebrating how a train tunnel was built. Now, what one has to do with the other, I don't know, but one of the exhibits was a bunch of people on top of a kind of like a very large pickup truck, I guess, for lack of better, I don't know my cars very well, but like one of those type of cars that are in parades and they have the big float at the back. It's like that, except it had all people in like a flesh toned unitards, and they were all mimicking having sex with each other. So that was one of the parades of a train tunnel that was built, a giant orgy. Another one that they had was...
Oh, I remember this. It just rang a bell. I'm sorry.
Yeah, they had an angel with a black angel outfit and black wings that fell from a very high spot in the parade, obviously to symbolize a fallen angel, Satan, however you want to make of it. They had the Baphomet, the goat that is that famous witchcraft symbol of the goat. He was in it. It was just one demonic reference after the other. And this is for the opening of a train tunnel.
Right.
With, I'm sure people brought kids. Now, I don't know why I would have to find out through my conspiracy radio shows and my conspiracy blogs and my conspiracy network of virtual friends on this, because it certainly wasn't on CNN or Fox or CBS, NBC, none of it. This to me was a huge story. Nobody covered it.
Yeah, I remember this. This happened a few years back.
2016.
Yeah, I linked the video. It's a short clip, like almost a 2-minute long, of these. It's bizarre. I mean, what do you make of this? It didn't even make sense to me why they would inject this performance into the opening ceremony. Like, what is your research?
Of a train tunnel.
Yeah, what's going on? Like, do you think that they like dug a hole too deep and opened up the pits of hell or something? I mean, it don't make any sense. They're hanging from chains and they're doing bizarre crap. They're all in orange jumpsuits.
Yeah, that was to signify how we're all slaves. I mean, if you analyze each set of parade wagons closely, they all have a New World Order ring to them.
Mm-hmm.
All of them.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. To me, let me interrupt. I'm sorry. I'm going to actually show this video while you're talking about it. So I'm going to have to create a scene real quick. So nobody go anywhere, okay? I'm going to create this scene real quick, and we'll go to display capture, left monitor. Just stand by real quick, guys. We'll go to this one. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. I think everybody can still hear us. Okay, go ahead and talk while we're watching this.
My take on this whole entire show is this. New World Order is almost here. We don't need to hide in the shadows anymore. It's out in the open. Europe has come to terms with it, and we're moving on. That was my take. Now, you can easily argue that, I suppose, but what else would you make of such a show of evil references? I don't know.
Yeah, we're looking at it now. It's got people, they come marching in from the tunnel. Here they are. They're like naked and they're being all weird and shit. I mean, my God. I mean, this is, you think this is how the New World Order like get down, right? This is how they have fun. They do wacky stuff like that.
Well, there's no morals anymore. There's no, and if you look at today, I'm certainly not a perfect person. I'm certainly not the moral police by any stretch of the imagination, but we're thought of as the most puritanical of the Western countries, and I think we're starting to lose our sense of right and wrong.
Yeah.
And Europe already has. They're before us.
Yeah, there's all kinds of weird stuff that I see. The alleged Illuminati group, secret society, doing. They're doing what is the thing that they're bleeding people out and drinking their blood, and what I can't remember.
Vampirism.
Yeah, and they're also
vampirism, black cannibalism. Cain and Abel. Cain supposedly was the first vampire. He was. That's a biblical reference. Lilith was the first female vampire. She was married to Adam before Eve. There's a lot to unpack with that parade. A lot to unpack, and none of it makes any sense. It has absolutely nothing to do with a tunnel that was built. Nothing.
No. I remember it popping up in the news, and I'm thinking Jason Bland covered it on the World Wide Web of Weird on his show. I think you've been on Jason Bland's show, Paranormal Soup.
Yes, I have.
I think he covered it when it first happened, or sometime after. I would love to understand what the hell, but I just think they kind of almost enjoy doing all these strange things with no context, it's like doing their nasty deeds right out in the open. I think if they explained themselves or exposed even an inkling of their agenda, that's not what they're trying to do. They're just trying to almost like edit in one frame of porn in our, PG-13 reality. It's almost like that.
And what does any of that have to do with a train that was built in a mountain? I don't know. I think that there was a message. All right. We're not hiding anymore. It's out and it's open, and we don't have to hide. And then, right afterwards, we've got England saying, I don't want nothing to do with you, EU. And then their people's vote was completely blown off. Can you imagine that? If we voted for somebody and then that person didn't take office, can you imagine how upset everybody would be?
What I'm wondering is, are all these people dressed up in the orange jumpsuits, are they in on it? Do they know what is going on?
I don't know if they're paid actors who are just playing a role, or they are part of all of this, pomp and circumstance that might be performed in secret. The whole thing reminded me, did you ever see that movie, one of my favorite movies, with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, Eyes Wide Shut?
Yes. That's a creepy movie.
Didn't it have that ring to it when he goes to that party?
Oh, yeah.
And they're wearing the robes and the masks, and they're having the orgies, and
oh, yeah.
That's what that ceremony reminded me of. Like first thing that came to mind, and and not to get too off track, but Stanley Kubrick was said to be part of the Illuminati, and he went rogue. And he gave us hints in The Shining, because The Shining was not really closely related to Stephen King's book. He gave us hints in that movie. He gave us hints that he might have filmed the first man on the moon, as if that did not happen. He gave us all kinds of hints. And then when he was filming that movie, Eyes Wide Shut, he died in the middle of making that movie of a heart attack.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. Kind of creepy.
Is. Yeah, this whole thing reminds me of something when it comes to the conspiracy theories of CERN. Have you done any research in that sector?
The conspiracies of CERN, S-E-R? No.
I think it's CERN, where they collide. They have the collider, the particle accelerator, and the collider. And there's this conspiracy theory that suggests that when they started colliding atoms together at near light speed, that they created multiple universes.
Oh, cool. No, I'm not familiar with that one.
Ooh, there's your next book. That'll be $99.95. No, I'm just checking. No, you need to check that out, Dina. You need to check that one out, because
sounds like a blog post.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard about the people that worked at CERN that went out in the middle late at night and did the whole Satanist ritual out in the courtyard there at CERN. You've never heard about that?
No.
Oh, I've just.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
CERN. Okay, I'm all over that. That's gonna be my next blog post.
Yeah, there's definitely some juice in there for some kind of crazy book that would, it's almost like a sci-fi thriller book almost, that you can write about that.
Cool.
But you definitely need to look in that. I was hoping that you knew all about that. You could tell me all about that.
No, that one's a new one for me. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Awesome.
Yeah, I try to, put my feelers out there to see what kind of wacky stuff, because, I do a lot of shows. I produce a lot of content, and I try to post stuff that are weird like that, to get people talking and get feedback from people. I'm trying to think of some other stuff that I was going to ask you about, some weird conspiracy stuff. There was the whole FEMA conspiracy where they're making all the caskets for, like, and doing there's a lot of false flag conspiracies where they were going to have some type of attack against the U.S. and wanting to put us all in all these FEMA caskets they were mass producing and storing. I think, what's his name? The ex-wrestler that was a governor?
Oh, Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, he was like huge into
laying
that.
low.
Yeah.
That one sounds familiar. And then, of course, the whole Jade Helm thing. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah.
Where they went on a fake weapon confiscation.
Right.
They had the military go home to home confiscating weapons for a drill.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a weird drill.
Yeah, I don't know why they would be training. If you're going to spend money and train for that, you're planning for it to happen.
Right.
Right?
Right. Exactly. And I don't want to get too political here because the truth is I don't even own a gun. So I'm hardly anyone to, don't take my Second Amendment away. I'm not that person. But I do like that option where if I feel threatened, if my neighborhood goes bad, I can go to the store and I could go buy one. I really like that option, and I want it to stay on the table.
Yeah, there was a quote by a Japanese general during World War II when the dictator of Japan was talking with his general about whether they should invade the U.S., and the general responded to him that pretty much that would be a bad idea because there is an American citizen hiding behind every blade of grass with a rifle. And I feel like that's why we're like one of the very few countries that just don't get landed on and invaded at all, because all the militias and all the gun owners would just come out of their basements with all the ammo they've been saving up since 1967 or whatever, and just unleash.
Yes, and just to piggyback on to what you said, one of the first things Hitler did was confiscate guns when he took power in Germany. So that's always something to keep in mind.
Yes. Oh, do you got something else on that?
I'm sorry?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you if you had something else.
No, I just wanted to bring that up, that he was into confiscation too. So
yeah, it's definitely a move that you would want to make if you're trying to, spread a, something like Hitler was doing. What I was wanting to do was go into chat. I can't see any questions, but I wasn't closely taking track. Do we have any questions in chat for Dina at all?
I don't have any questions.
You don't? Well,
I don't either.
You guys need to get to work and start asking them to to come up with these questions, because they're part of this too.
Yeah, no, I mean they're all following and commenting.
I know that they are. I'm giving them a hard time.
Well, Justin, I got one more big piece of New World Order that I did want to touch upon, and that's this idea. And you were talking about it earlier, how you're just turned off by organized religion. Well, a lot of people are. A big piece of New World Order is a one world religion, or even better, no religion, but that'll probably never happen. So the one world religion is kind of the plan B. Ideally, plan A, no religion, because people do crazy stuff in the name of their beliefs. We all know that. That's religion can make someone do crazy stuff. It's a very, very powerful influencer. So, like Karl Marx said, if you want a socialist world, you want a communist world, you have to get rid of religion. But that'll probably never happen. So I wanted to bring up what has been popping up all over the Western world. It's called interfaithism. And this is part of my book. And it's also, I think it should be on the news, but it's not. It's, again, on radio shows like yours and conspiracy blogs and conspiracy sites on the internet. Mm-hmm. Interfaithism is kind of like a patchwork of all of the major religions, all of the good stuff. So anything that's divisive, anything that differentiates your religion of choice from someone else's is left at the door. So interfaithism would be just kind of a way to blend generally Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and Buddhism. It would be kind of like a combination of all of that. And I did want to mention I'm originally from Illinois, the Chicago area, and there was this one church. I never went there. It was on Lake Street in, I want to say, Bartlett or Elgin. It's a suburb of Chicago. And it looked like a mini UN. It had like 30 different nations of flags going up the walkway to the front door. Very creepy. I should have went in there. That would have been a great blog in itself, but I didn't. The place scared me. And that, of course, was an interfaith church. I want to, give you a quote from the Bible about this interfaithism. It says in Revelation 13, common worship, they're predicting that common worship will come and all religions will be a pathway to God. And that's not a good prophecy. That's what is predicted towards the end of days. And I certainly don't want to offend anybody, but Pope Francis, head of the Catholic Church, he's got a zillion conspiracies tied to him and all of the things he's been doing. He's definitely one of the most unique popes that the Catholic Church has ever had. He has spoken about having a new kind of humanity, a new kind of world that refuses to see borders. He's very outspoken, does not like President Trump's ideas about building a wall. Yet he lives in a castle in the Vatican that has a wall, but he's very against that. He's has national prayer days where he invites leaders of different religions to pray with him as if they're all praying to the same God. Again, there's a breakdown. There's maybe you see this as good. I'm a Christian, so I don't. But there's a breakdown of who is the real God, because now the real God is anybody's God. That is, of course, the point of all of this. And this is a big one in New World Order, because we can't have different religious sectors that will cause a problem in creating a one type of person society.
Yeah, I think my view of organized religion, it in our country, it kind of falls on the right. You know, we have the far right usually aligns with the Christian faith or a subset or denomination of the Christian faith. And there you could tie in Judaism and Catholicism in there too, but a singular God that they worship, and it's usually the same God from all the same original texts, like the Jewish texts and the Quran, and even further back. But what I see is the left, which is kind of associated with New World Order and global government. They like you said, they tried to eliminate organized religion. They would trying to remove religion from the schools, trying to remove religion from politics and policies and all of that. I don't know what I think about the Pope trying to unite religions. I don't know if that is universally viewed as bad to most Christians. I really think that using religion to mandate anything, you know, that the government would put on this is bad. I think once you start doing, I think. Go ahead.
No, I'm just agreeing. Go ahead.
Oh, you know, but it's interesting that what the angle you're coming from is, if someone was trying to globalize religion, that would be one way to do it. So it's almost like everybody speaking the same language, everybody worshiping essentially the same God, because they're kind of like saying that the God in all the different religions are the same, which I believe, if there is a God like that, that's probably true. I don't believe one religion is right over other religions. I don't believe that. But I think
I guess.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to say, well, what makes Christianity different than Judaism and Islam and Buddhism is Jesus, is Christ.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to blend them all together, you would eventually have to leave Christ at the doorstep, because he says the only way to the Father is through me. The only way to heaven is through me. He repeatedly says things like that. He says things of division and making a stand and drawing a line. So how would you incorporate him into an interfaith? I'm not saying that they're trying to do that. They would either A, have to get rid of him in the New Testament, or B, edit what he says by changing the Bible.
Do you think that the Gospels and the literature has been highly edited? Do you feel like what we're reading in the King James?
That's a great question.
Do you believe that that's the true gospel?
That's a great question. We know that in 325 AD, they had that meeting at Nicaea, and they decided that was pure editing. What books got in the Bible, what books stayed out. So we already know it was edited once when they made it a collection like it is today. Maybe it was edited before then. Maybe there are books that we're not allowed to read.
Yeah, they had an agenda. That's why they edited it.
Absolutely.
So I think some of the Gospels and some of the literature that got edited out maybe didn't align with you have to come through Jesus, you know. And I just thought it was an interesting question, because I think if you're going to be open-minded, you have to think humans wrote the Bible, you know, humans said that angels talked to them, that God talked to them. You know, they're talking about seeing some things that sound like psychedelic trips. You know, it's I just think that, you know, you got to be careful when you subscribe to something all the way, because you're just dealing with unknowns when it comes to the Bible. And I just thought that, you know, I was already thinking about that when I researched theology, that's the uncomfortable feeling that I get from people, you saying that you can only make it to heaven through Jesus. I have a problem with that, because I feel like that's an absolute, and I don't like absolutes.
It is.
I feel like
it is an absolute.
I feel like when you deal with absolutes, control comes along with it, and fear comes along with it. It's interesting to talk about, because when you know, if you're in the opposition of this new world order, you will want to cling to that because you feel a part of something unchanging for so many years, so ingrained in our culture. And when you feel people starting to tug at those heartstrings, you know, when it comes to your faith, you know, how deep-seated it is in our culture, that makes you feel highly uncomfortable. That makes you think that, hey, wait a minute, is there someone conspiring against undermining my faith? And, you know, I feel like people should have the freedom to believe in that absolute, the freedom to believe that their religion is, has piety overall. But it was just you know, I just wanted you to kind of think about that a little bit.
Well, absolutely. I know exactly what you're saying, but if you're going to mix the great religions of the world together in a hodgepodge and leave out anything that's controversial, you don't really have a religion. There is no religion. So in a sense, a one world government doesn't want religion, but they're going to give you a one world religion, which really isn't a religion at all. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, I do understand how that mechanic works. Absolutely. And, you know, just because someone questions whether Jesus is the only way or whether you can intermingle all the religions, that's definitely not going to dismantle, you know, the Christian faith overnight. It's so deep-seated in our culture. And I think there is definitely going to be a battle and a lot of resistance, and not only in our culture, but worldwide when it comes to religion. I think religion is one of the ways that will, you know, make it hard for globalists to reign. I think that's the one thing that, you know, keeps it at bay.
Yes, I agree with you 100% on that. It gives people, I think it gives, whatever religion you are, it gives you a sense that there's something more out there. There's something more than ourselves. There's a reason why we're here. And I can't imagine a life without it. Whatever you believe in. It's almost like if you don't believe in anything, it's almost kind of like, well, I guess I'll live my life and then I'll die, and that's it. I don't know. That's just me.
There are people out there comfortable with that, and that's kind of strange. Lynn has a question, Missy, if you want to ask it.
Yeah. She said, do you believe there is only one true religion, or should we be paying attention to Christianity, Buddhism, Quran, etc.? I think there are different religions, so you can find what works for you.
I agree with that. I'm a Christian, so I, of course, believe that Christ is the way, but I don't want to. I think that there's a lot to every religion. We were talking earlier about the Indians and the Hindu text. They have a lot of interesting historical data that we're chalking off as fables that might not be fables. That might be history. And the Jews, again, that's their whole religion is, 3/4 of the Christian Bible, and Islam spun off of Judaism. So they're all kind of related, and whichever one seems to get you through your dark times, I think is a good thing.
It depends on what prophecy you believe in and what Messiah that you subscribe to. The main difference that I know about from Judaism and Christianity is Jesus wasn't their prophet. Muhammad was. Right. Or was that? No, that's the Quran. That's Islam. Yeah. Now, it's been a long time since I've read the literature. There was a prophecy in Judaism, in the Jewish faith, right? Of the coming.
They prophesied that Jesus has yet to come.
Okay.
He's coming. So they have the same. Their Bible is exactly like the Christian Bible, except there's no New Testament, and it ends where Jesus the guy who was born to the virgin that was talked about in the Second Testament, that was all a bunch of hooey. They think that the real Jesus has yet to come.
That's interesting. That is interesting.
Yeah, he's coming. He is yet to come.
William Bennett had a question.
Okay.
So with the EU teetering on falling apart, China struggles oh my gosh. Economically, nationalism on the rise. What do you think will be the new world order response to such as breakdown from so many areas?
A lot of people, myself included, think that once these economies are really starting to break down, and right now what makes America so great is the middle class. We've got the biggest section of our society, and Europe is the middle class. We don't have a middle class, and we've got a handful of rich people, and everybody else is poor and has nothing to lose. They have no stake in following the rules. So the key to any society staying peaceful is the middle class. So if we get rid of the middle class, we just, make the middle class pay more taxes, absorb more incoming poverty, and we form a society of rich people and then poor people. We're going to have revolution. We're going to have war. We're eventually going to have nuclear war. And once the entire world is vulnerable like that, then a leader will emerge and have a plan, have a way out. Now, that's one way. A lot of people that I talk to don't think that a new world order is going to come from war or a breakdown in economics. They think that a new world order is going to come from, I find this very interesting, from biological warfare, that somebody's going to release a toxin in the air and we're going to have a global plague. And that's going to be how we depopulate. That's going to be how we form a one world government. And I find that idea very scary as well.
Yeah, I think the government has toyed around with that. I've done research on certain conspiracy theories concerning Lyme disease, how the government was messing around with the mutated form of Lyme and infecting insects.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing,
I heard that one too.
So, how far they would spread in certain sectors of the U.S. and other parts. And I did want to go back to weather control. What do you know about weather control? Because
HARP, right?
Well, HARP is kind of like an afterthought now. It just seems like the government's come out with these big mobile floating things that can do weather control. Have you seen videos of this thing? They're these huge floating things that are like HARP on a boat. Like they've come out, the chemtrail stuff has kind of come out saying, yeah, we are manipulating the weather, but it's for this purpose. It's to combat global warming. It's to do this or do that. But do you think that we're under some type of weather war with other countries?
Where we can somehow flip a switch, send out some kind of machinery, something to give them a tornado or a hurricane or a tsunami or something like that. Earthquake. Well, I obviously don't know, but I think 100% yes. If we can shoot down, and not saying that we did this. This is just, I'm using a conspiracy theory to prove a conspiracy theory, not the most logical thing to do. But if we can shoot down a satellite from being launched in Iran, then why couldn't we send a machinery over to the shores of someplace that's not cooperating with us on some level and cause devastation? I really don't see why not. There's so many things that we can do that's so top secret. Why not send somebody a nice old-fashioned tornado or hurricane or tsunami look at what's happening in the Amazon with the wildfire. All kinds of awful stuff that's, making this world weaker.
It is. The Amazon burning right now has definitely got conspiracy written all over it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Absolutely.
But before we get into that, what me and my wife were talking about is that hurricane that kind of hovered over the Bahamas. It pretty much nuked the Bahamas. They said the reason why it hung out there was so much pressure, or moisture coming from the continental part of the U.S. pushing that there and kind of holding it. It almost seemed like some other country created the hurricane to come at us, and we kind of deflected it from coming in to the United States. It just almost seems like that. That's probably a bunch of horse crap. But I just always speculate. No. Could we be going to war? My
husband said the same thing.
Did he?
Yeah, he said the same thing, and he's really into watching the radar and everything. And there's no reason why that hurricane somehow, Florida. Let's put it this way: Florida should have been the Bahamas,
right?
And there's no reason for that, and I don't think we have a beef with the Bahamas. I just think that they were an easier. They could get hit a lot easier than the United States. They were expendable, shall we say?
Right. I do want to talk to you now about this forest fire in the Amazon. For people that don't know, do you know kind of how it started? To kind of give a premise to it, the natives were fighting against the logging of the Amazon because they're destroying their homes and their natural habitat to all the wildlife and their indigenous culture. So they eventually won in court, but right after they won, shit started burning. I mean, do you want to reflect on that a little bit?
Well, again, as you've already laid out very nice and neatly, again, we're talking about depopulation. We've got a group of people that really don't matter to the elites, at least in that area. And if they're going to get in their way, well, they're going to pay, basically. And that's what it looks like. That's exactly what it looks like. That whole area, and then they let those loggers, they let them just ruin that forest. The whole thing is just so messed up. All the plants and animals. I mean, we could maybe even cure cancer.
Oh, that reminds me of that movie with Sean Connery. What was that movie? He was curing cancer in the jungle of the Amazon. God, I can't remember the name of the movie. It's an old movie. But you're right. I mean, there's so many mysteries and the natural resources in the Amazon. Just to burn it just because you don't want to clear land for more livestock to feed us hamburgers every day or something like that. It just seems nuts that you could just decide to do that. It is crazy. I'm definitely not resonating with these people at all.
Oh, I know. They're ruining our world. They're ruining the world. No question about it. And is that intentional? It might be. It certainly fits the pattern of New World Order thinking. As we're talking about the environment and everything, I wanted to just throw in real quick because I definitely have a New World Order axe to grind with the UN. And I think that this whole part of New World Order to act like one world is all of these, this whole Green Deal and the UN and their agenda 2030 and now 2050. And all of the countries of the world have these environmental agendas, which were written many, many years ago that so neatly match perfectly most of the Democratic candidates' environmental program. So I'm just putting it out there. Did the Democrats come up with their environmental program, which I believe is being aired tonight? They each get, 45 minutes to talk about their green ideas, because they're all identical to what was written 10 years ago at the UN for Agenda 2030. So it makes me think, are these real candidates or are they puppets? Because they're acting like these are all their ideas when they're just ideas that were written in a UN agenda, which cannot by law be enforced, but definitely is being promoted. So I want to put that out there. And I'm not one of these, these righty types that think that global warming is a scam. I'm sure that there's something to it. I just, want to put that out as a disclaimer. But what a great money grab. Okay, let's tax the middle class. Again, the whole goal is to get rid of the middle class. Let's tax the middle class on the carbon footprinting.
Yeah.
Let's tax it, and it's a money grab.
Yep.
And then we'll make mandates that certain green, quote unquote, green businesses, you have to get your windows through them. You have to get your solar panels through them. You have to. Before you know it, we've got a whole nother branch of elite cropping up, and us, the middle class, are stuck paying for it again. So I want to bring that up because I think that the environment is another branch to New World Order.
Well, if you want to mess with the economy, the first thing you want to attack is coal and oil. And if you have the government coming out and telling you, hey, we can manipulate the weather, what makes you think that it's not possible that they've created, like you suggested, they created this global warming hype? They actually created it to kind of force people to realize, like, hey, look, we need to start shifting our interests and resources into green energy. So even, whether it's a scam or not, there's definitely, economic wars being waged in that sector. It's all very interesting, and we just seem like we just barely grasp what's going on, and we don't know what to believe, and it's really crazy. But believe it or not, Dina, we have done a 2-hour show, and I think that
all right, Justin.
I think we filled the airways with plenty of mind screws. Well, I usually use a different word, but I'm trying to be polite. We've definitely put some weird vibes out there for people to go to sleep to. But before we end, I want to give you all the chance that you need to promote your book, give any plugs that you want to give, and anything that you possibly want to add. You have the air.
Awesome. Well, once again, you are the host with the most. Thank you so much for having me on. You and your team are just amazing. I would like to plug my newest book. It's called Crowns and Cabals by Dina Rae, R-A-E. And then it's got a subtitle that says, Apocalyptic. Sorry, my dogs in the background are really bad.
There's the dog, Missy. There's the dog.
They're bad. Anyway, the subtitle is An Apocalyptic Tale of New World Order. So, again, it's fiction, but it's not. And a lot of research went into it, and so far, reviewers who have reviewed it love it. So I want to put that out there. You can find me on Amazon. I'm on other sites too, but always on Amazon. That is my 8th book. My other books are about aliens, fallen angels. I even have one nonfiction called Big Pharmacy, Big Pharma, Big Agro, Big Conspiracy, and I'm currently writing a follow-up to that. It's about the healthcare industry. My blogs are Dina Rae's writestuff.blogspot.com, and that's DinaRae'sWriteStuff. Dina Rae's writestuff.blogspot.com. And then I just started a new blog called Conspiracy Crackpot on WordPress. No space between the two of them. And that one, I'm on my Dina Rae's Right Stuff. I'll post anything. And I welcome anybody can post if they got something they want to promote. They've got some kind of conspiracy they want to talk about. Whatever. You're welcome to email me, and I'll post 99% of whatever people send. The other one, Conspiracy Crackpot, is only conspiracy theories, and that one I just started. So again, you're welcome to hunt me on the internet. I'm super easy to find, and I'll post a conspiracy theory, as long as it is not filled with hate or racism. You can also find me on Facebook. I have my own page called Dina Rae Books. RAE is how I spell my last name. You can find me on Twitter. I'm on @Halo of the Damned, no spaces. That was a book I finished right when Twitter came out, so that's why it's my handle. And I'm on Pinterest. I'm on Instagram, Dina Rae 2018. I'm on Goodreads, Dina Rae, RAE. I'm probably missing a few, but I get around on the internet. So please look me up. There's another Dina Rae. She's a singer for Eminem. I am not that young, good-looking, hot singer that is with Eminem. I'm the writer. So
yeah,
I just wanted to throw that out.
Yeah, I did notice that when I Googled you, because I was wanting to make sure that I got the links to where you can find your books on Amazon. There's actual an Amazon link that I have where it has all your books listed for Amazon. And I have the
Awesome.
link to Crowns and Cabals, an Apocalyptic Tale of New World Order. But yeah, I didn't know what links you wanted me to use. I should have asked you what links you wanted me to post in the description, but if like Dina said, if you have any trouble finding her book or her blogs or anything like that, just email her or contact her on Facebook. I don't know if you want to give an email out on the shows.
Sure. My public email is BLCS Dina, DINA, @gmail.com.
There you go. So if you have trouble, email her and she will help you out. Dina, thank you very much. I have people in the chat saying that this was their favorite show by far, that they loved everything. It's always a good to sit on the mic and just talk about all the weird stuff that kind of goes through our heads, because there's something to this stuff. There's something going on beneath or behind the curtain, as they say. So I want to thank you very much for taking 2 hours out of your life to have a chat with me. I am very glad that you emailed me and wanted me to help promote your book and just talk and get to know each other and learn from, I get to learn about some new stuff on your book, and you get to go look up the CERN conspiracies that we talked about before.
I'm all over that. I'm all over that.
Yeah, because, I want you to have all the resources you need to write more books, because I think that you are very, very talented in your genre of literature.
Well, Justin, thank you. You and your team, you guys are so awesome, and I love your show, and thanks for having me, and it was a true pleasure.
You are very welcome. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show. If you want to get off the call, you can, or you can just chill out on the call while I wrap it up.
I'll let you go. Thanks so much.
You have a good night.
You too.
Bye-bye. All right, so there we go, folks. Crowns and Cabals. Definitely check out the link if you're into conspiracy theories. If you like some of the plot lines and characters that she talked about in the book, there's kind of an introductory to there's an outline of the book on Amazon you can read to kind of give you a teaser about what it's like, but I would like very much to, help Dina sell any books or get her, some more readers on her blogs and on Reddit following her stuff. I think it's all very interesting. And like I said, there is something to a lot of these conspiracy theories. We just need to keep digging and keep searching. The truth is out there, as they say. So I want to thank you all for joining me once again on Necromancer Live. I think if I remember right, we have a very interesting guest coming up September 18th. And let me see if I'm right. Oh, I am right. If you've ever heard about the Conjuring House, the house that I think her name's Amanda Perrin. I know it's Perrin. She is very active on the internet, on podcasts and radio shows about her story of this little farmhouse in Maine, which is the what sparked the whole Conjuring House movie. And our friend, me and Josh, well, Josh's friend, now my friend named Corey Heinzen, he and another gentleman had went in and bought that house, and they're getting it fixed up and opening it to the public for paranormal research. So we get to talk to Corey Heinzen in 2 weeks about that purchase, what he's experienced, and what his plans are for the Conjuring House. It should be very, very interesting. So what we do, we'll go ahead and go into the links. If you want to learn everything that there is to learn about Interface Death, all of our documentaries, live shows, and tutorials that we do, go to interfacedeath.net or .com, whichever you would like to type in, and you will see the hub of everything that we do. All the links to our social media and all the information and resources are available there. We can talk about patreon.com/support Interface Death. If liking this video, sharing it is not enough, and you want to support us more and to keep providing this free content for everyone else to consume, you can financially support what we do and get rewarded, and we'll go into that a little bit more if you would like. If you're watching on YouTube or other platforms, you can check out Facebook.com/Necromancer Live Show on Facebook. You can follow Interface Death on Twitter and Instagram. We are now live streaming on Twitch. If that's your thing, you can check us out on Twitch. And we have a Discord server. You can go on Discord, and it would be the one place that everybody from all platforms and all areas of the internet can come together in one community and share things, chat, and do all that kind of fun stuff. And of course, we shout out all our patrons. They're very much a part of what we do. They help us vote for the topics of the Paranormal Soapbox show that we do every Tuesday. So we're going to shout out Clay Borman, Scotty Fox, Katie Turner, RJ Murphy, Casey Schreiner, Jessica Bias, Paranormal Reporter, Joe Vitale, Heather Elliott, Betty Kegley, Cherry Capital Shadow Seekers, Kelly McConkey, and the Ghost Guild. Extend your thanks out to them. We appreciate your support. And we're going to leave it there. If you want to, if you came in late and didn't check out the video promotions and ads midway through the show, you can do so right now. But if not, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Do you have that drive? That morbid curiosity to explore the darkness? Do you have what it takes to brave the night? You do? Good. Dead light.
cell. I'd like to see you. What the fuck was that?
On Friday, September 13th, begin your journey into the supernatural in one of Ohio's most haunted mansions. Built in 1858, the Anchorage Mansion's dark history extends well beyond the deaths of its multiple owners. For 26 years, it was used as a nursing home, where many Marietta residents spent the last years of their lives. Join us for a night of history and ghost hunting you'll never forget. Your journey awaits.
Something that I picked up prior on the photos that I've seen, I keep seeing a badge. It feels like some kind of tightness in the chest. So it feels like he possibly could have passed away from heart or lung issues, but I don't know if he was an officer here or some kind of badge. I'm trying to figure out how to explain it, and it's just so overwhelming. It's just, it's a lot of
Whoa. My camera just stopped. I just got a complete shutdown of my equipment.
My main story when I first started here, that's where I saw the mass, was in the basement doorway.
Showers in prisons feel weird. More happened in there than people getting clean.
Doesn't matter what floor you're on, what room you're in, you can get interaction. This is one of the most haunted locations that I've been to.
Just walk out of your cell. I'd like to see you. What the fuck was that?
This is Jason Bland, host of Midwest Paranormal Presents Paranormal Soup, where we stream live as a webcast every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern, with guests who will blow your mind. Live ghost box sessions where you can call into the show to see if the spirits will talk to you, and the World Wide Web of Weird with the latest in paranormal news and evidence. We're bringing the weird every Sunday night, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Eastern on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow and subscribe.
A lot of chaos a few times, a lot of hectic and a lot of energies all at once. Feels like there's an older gentleman, like he's almost angry.
To the side of the house, and we both felt like something was watching us. So at the same time, we turn and we look up at the tower, and we see a man standing there. He was an older gentleman, and he had, you know, like his cheeks were kind of hanging down, and his gray hair was swept back, and he had a maroon dressing gown on.
I do believe that I have some sort of ability, or genuinely I could be in this house all day, all night without any complaints whatsoever. It's just that comfortable. A lot of people think just because it's haunted and just because it has paranormal activity that automatically you're supposed to run screaming for the hills, but in this place it just feels like home.
I heard footsteps.
5-degree increase.
It walked away. It's behind you.
I'm hearing the train.
I just heard something.
It feels like it's train. Non-stop. I don't know why.